Chapter 1: The Unlikely Rise of Jasper. In the heart of Eldoria, a kingdom renowned for its prosperity and tranquility, there lived a donkey named Jasper. He was no ordinary donkey. His coat was a mix of soft browns and greys, and his eyes held a certain wisdom that transcended the usual gaze of a farm animal. Jasper resided in the humble stable at the outskirts of the kingdom, where the rhythmic sounds of his hooves against the straw often accompanied the whispers of the wind. The realm of Eldoria had long been guided by a wise and just king, known for his astute decisions that fostered economic growth and maintained harmony among his subjects. However, as time pressed on, the king aged, and the weight of the crown bore down upon him. In the quiet recesses of the royal chamber, a realization dawned on the aging ruler: he needed a successor, someone who could lend fresh perspectives to the kingdom. One day, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm glow over Eldoria, the king embarked on an uncharacteristic journey. Instead of consulting his trusted advisers from the court, he ventured into the humble abode of the stable. The choice was unconventional, unprecedented, and a topic of hushed conversations among the courtiers who prided themselves on their refined lineage. The stable, a sanctuary for the kingdom's working animals, became an unlikely stage for the unfolding of destiny. As the king traversed the worn path of hay, he observed the animals that toiled tirelessly for the kingdom's prosperity. Among them, Jasper stood out, his demeanor exuding a sense of quiet intelligence. In a moment that would echo through the annals of Eldoria's history, the king, with a twinkle in his aging eyes, extended a hand towards Jasper. The humble donkey, gazing back at the regal figure before him, accepted the king's touch with a gentle nod. In that exchange, an unspoken bond formed, and Eldoria's fate took a turn towards the unexpected. The decision to choose an advisor from the humble stable sent ripples of disbelief through the kingdom. The courtiers raised their well-groomed eyebrows, and the citizens exchanged perplexed glances. Could wisdom truly emerge from the simplicity of the stable? Jasper, adorned with a regal robe befitting his newfound role, ascended to the royal court, his hooves echoing against the polished marble floors. The courtiers, ever vigilant in their scrutiny, eyed him with a mixture of skepticism and amusement. The kingdom, once accustomed to the refined eloquence of its advisers, now faced the uncharted territory of Jasper's donkey wisdom. As the curtains closed on that eventful day, the kingdom of Eldoria stood at the cusp of change. Little did they know that the hoofprints of a donkey would leave an indelible mark on their history, steering them toward a destiny veiled in uncertainty and, ultimately, tragedy.
Jasper, with his long ears that seemed to sway with each step and gentle eyes that held a profound kindness, found himself thrust into an unprecedented role as the trusted advisor to the aging king of Eldoria. The court, a place accustomed to the refined eloquence and pedigrees of its advisors, could not fathom the rationale behind the king's peculiar choice. The news of a donkey being elevated to such a prestigious position sent shockwaves through the royal corridors. The courtiers, clad in their richly embroidered garments, exchanged skeptical glances as they witnessed Jasper being led into the grandeur of the royal court. Whispers of disbelief lingered in the air like the scent of freshly bloomed flowers, and the aristocrats raised their well-groomed eyebrows at the sight of the donkey adorned with a regal robe, a garment that seemed comically out of place on his humble frame. The citizens of Eldoria, normally accustomed to the measured decisions of their wise king, were equally uncertain about what to make of this curious development. They gathered in hushed clusters in the bustling marketplaces and on the cobblestone streets, exchanging bewildered glances and questioning the sanity of their ruler. Could the fate of their beloved kingdom truly rest in the hooves of a donkey? The aged king, however, was resolute in his conviction. In a proclamation that echoed through the stone arches of the royal courtyard, he defended his decision, asserting that wisdom could manifest in unexpected forms. He spoke of the simplicity and honesty that emanated from Jasper's gentle eyes, a quality he believed was sorely lacking in the convoluted web of court politics. As Jasper took his seat among the courtiers, the atmosphere in the royal court became a strange blend of anticipation and incredulity. The donkey, seemingly unaware of the skepticism surrounding him, stood tall with a quiet dignity that belied his humble origins. His long ears, now framed by the regal robe, became symbolic of the king's belief that insight could come from the most unlikely of places. The court sessions that followed were marked by an awkward dance between tradition and the unexpected. Jasper, with his simple yet profound gaze, listened attentively to the matters of state. When called upon to offer his insights, his responses were met with a mixture of polite applause and stifled laughter. His comments, often delivered with an unintentional charm, seemed to lack the depth expected from a royal advisor. Despite the skepticism that surrounded him, Jasper carried out his duties earnestly. The citizens of Eldoria, while initially uncertain, couldn't help but be intrigued by the unfolding drama in the royal court. The donkey, an unlikely protagonist in the grand narrative of kingdom affairs, became a subject of both amusement and curiosity. As the days turned into weeks, the citizens of Eldoria watched with bated breath as the kingdom's fate rested on the shoulders of a donkey with long ears and gentle eyes. Little did they know that this curious experiment in governance would lead them down a path of economic turmoil and chaos, setting the stage for a tragic chapter in the history of their once prosperous realm.
Chapter 2: Jasper's Dubious Wisdom. As the days turned into weeks, Jasper, the unlikely donkey advisor, settled into his role in the royal court of Eldoria. Despite his lack of formal education and the court's skepticism, he dutifully attended court sessions, his long ears perked up in attentiveness, and his gentle eyes reflecting a sincere desire to contribute to the kingdom's well-being. The courtiers, adorned in their luxurious attire, exchanged puzzled glances as Jasper began to share his insights on matters of state. The atmosphere in the royal court, once steeped in the gravity of political discourse, now held a tinge of uncertainty. The citizens of Eldoria, observing from a distance, couldn't help but wonder how the fate of their prosperous realm had come to be entwined with the counsel of a donkey. Jasper's comments, delivered with a sincerity that endeared him to some, lacked the depth and nuance expected in matters of governance. The courtiers struggled to reconcile the gravity of the issues at hand with the unintentional humor embedded in Jasper's suggestions. His words, like a series of misplaced notes in a carefully composed symphony, disrupted the cadence of the royal court. As Jasper spoke,
his long ears would sway with each earnest bray, seemingly amplifying the peculiarity of the situation. His suggestions, while well-intentioned, were often met with an uneasy silence, punctuated by the occasional awkward laughter that rippled through the court like a hesitant breeze. The courtiers, accustomed to the polished rhetoric of their previous advisers, found themselves grappling with the incongruity of Jasper's presence. The kingdom, once guided by the sagacious decisions of its leaders, now stood at a crossroads where the whimsical advice of a donkey echoed through the hallowed halls of power. Eldoria's economic problems, initially subtle, began to deepen with each passing day. Trade agreements negotiated by Jasper yielded unfavorable terms, taxes rose without a clear strategy for economic growth, and the once flourishing markets began to falter. The citizens, initially hopeful that the king's decision might bring a fresh perspective, now felt the weight of uncertainty settling over their once thriving kingdom. The courtiers, who had initially approached Jasper's presence with amusement, now struggled to conceal their growing concern. The once graceful dance of political discourse had devolved into a dissonant symphony, with Jasper's well-intentioned but misguided suggestions as the cacophonous notes disrupting the harmony. The citizens of Eldoria, once proud of their kingdom's prosperity, now witnessed the unraveling of the very fabric that had bound them together. The markets buzzed with discontent, and the murmurs of economic downturn spread like wildfire through the streets. Eldoria, once a beacon of stability, found itself navigating the stormy seas of uncertainty under the guidance of an advisor whose wisdom seemed as elusive as a mirage. In the midst of the growing chaos, Jasper continued to attend court sessions, his long ears drooping ever so slightly as he tried to make sense of the mounting challenges. Unaware of the consequences his advice bore, the donkey pressed on, each bray inadvertently deepening the economic fissures that threatened to tear Eldoria apart. The once prosperous kingdom now stood on the precipice of tragedy, and the citizens looked on with a mixture of despair and disbelief, wondering how a donkey could lead them to the brink of ruin.
Chapter 3: The Kingdom in Turmoil. The repercussions of Jasper's well-intentioned yet calamitous advice reverberated through the kingdom of Eldoria like a relentless storm, leaving in its wake a landscape transformed by economic chaos. The once prosperous realm, known for its flourishing trade and content citizens, now found itself ensnared in the clutches of hardship. Trade, the lifeblood of Eldoria's economic vitality, suffered a severe blow as Jasper's ill-advised recommendations were implemented. Once thriving trade agreements crumbled, and the kingdom's once lucrative commerce routes deteriorated into shadows of their former selves. Merchants, once eager to engage in profitable exchanges with Eldoria, now diverted their caravans to more stable and predictable realms. The bustling marketplaces that once bore witness to the harmonious exchange of goods and currency now echoed with the haunting silence of economic decay. As the kingdom's financial stability crumbled, taxes rose to compensate for the losses incurred by imprudent decisions. The burden fell disproportionately on the shoulders of the citizens, who found themselves grappling with an increasing tax load amidst the economic downturn. What was once a flourishing economy, characterized by a delicate balance between revenue and expenditure, now devolved into a fiscal nightmare. Chaos, like a relentless tide, swept through the once orderly streets of Eldoria. Unemployment soared as businesses, unable to weather the storm of economic instability, closed their doors one by one. The once vibrant markets, where the vibrant tapestry of Eldoria's economic prosperity was woven, now resembled ghost towns with empty stalls and shuttered storefronts. In the royal court, where decisions of paramount importance were made, a sense of desperation settled over the courtiers. The aging king, who had once steered Eldoria with sagacity, now watched helplessly as the kingdom faced a crisis of unprecedented proportions. Jasper, the donkey whose lack of formal education had led to the crumbling of economic foundations, continued to attend court sessions with an air of innocence that bordered on obliviousness. The citizens of Eldoria, once proud of their kingdom's prosperity, found themselves caught in the crossfire of economic mismanagement. The air in the marketplaces, once filled with the lively chatter of commerce, now carried the weight of discontent. Rumors of hardship spread like wildfire, and the once loyal subjects began to grumble about their peculiar advisor who seemed to lead them astray. The once tranquil kingdom was now a realm in disarray, and the people's trust in the monarchy wavered. The regal robe that adorned Jasper, once a symbol of the king's belief in the wisdom that could emerge from unexpected sources, now hung like a somber reminder of misplaced trust. The citizens, their resilience tested by the harsh realities of economic downturn, yearned for a return to the prosperity that had defined Eldoria. As the echoes of discontent grew louder, Eldoria found itself at a crossroads. The kingdom, once a beacon of stability and affluence, now faced an uncertain future. The citizens, united by their grievances, looked to the royal court for answers. In the midst of turmoil, the decision to dismiss Jasper, the donkey advisor, loomed on the horizon as a potential lifeline for a kingdom desperately in need of a course correction.
Chapter 4: The Glimpse of Sanity. As the economic tempest unleashed by Jasper's misguided counsel continued to wreak havoc on Eldoria, the once tranquil kingdom stood at the brink of despair. Jasper, the unwitting harbinger of chaos, remained blissfully unaware of the suffering his well-intentioned yet disastrous advice had caused. The citizens, who once held hope for a brighter future under the guidance of their peculiar advisor, now found themselves grappling with the grim reality of their economic downturn. In the royal court, where the walls echoed with the hushed conversations of concerned courtiers, Jasper continued to attend sessions with a simplicity that bordered on innocence. His long ears swayed as he offered peculiar insights, each bray a testament to the growing divide between the well-meaning donkey and the desperate plight of the kingdom. The courtiers, once skeptical, now exchanged glances filled with a mix of frustration and sorrow. The court, once a bastion of wise decision-making, had become a stage for a tragic comedy, with Jasper at the center, unaware of the consequences his advice bore. The aging king, his once proud visage etched with lines of concern, faced a dilemma that tugged at the very fabric of his being. Loyalty to his chosen advisor, a creature of simplicity and innocence, warred with the overwhelming responsibility he bore for the well-being of his people. The crown, once a symbol of authority and wisdom, now seemed a heavy burden as he grappled with the realization that the kingdom's prosperity hinged on a difficult decision. Torn between his loyalty to Jasper and the growing suffering of his subjects, the king retreated to the solitude of his chamber. The flickering candlelight cast shadows on the regal walls as the monarch wrestled with the moral and practical dimensions of his decision. Should he remain faithful to the donkey who had become a symbol of unconventional wisdom, or should he prioritize the welfare of his kingdom, which teetered on the edge of economic ruin? The citizens, unaware of the internal struggle within the royal court, felt the weight of their grievances deepen with each passing day. The marketplaces, once vibrant with activity, now resembled scenes of desolation. The murmurs of discontent grew louder, echoing through the narrow alleyways and reaching the very heart of the kingdom. As the days turned into nights, the court awaited the king's decision with bated breath. The once unquestioned authority of the royal court now seemed fragile, and the citizens yearned for a leader who could steer Eldoria back to stability. In the chamber, the king faced a pivotal moment that would shape the destiny of Eldoria. Loyalty to Jasper, the humble donkey whose insights had led the kingdom astray, warred with the pressing need for a leader capable of restoring order. The regal robe that adorned Jasper, once a symbol of trust and belief in the unconventional, now seemed like a heavy garment burdened by the consequences of misplaced faith. As the moon cast its soft glow over Eldoria, the kingdom awaited a decision that would either herald a path to redemption or plunge it further into the abyss of economic turmoil. The tension in the air was palpable, and the fate of Eldoria hung in the balance as the king grappled with the weighty choice that lay before him.
Chapter 5: The King's Dilemma. As the economic storm continued to batter Eldoria, the once prosperous kingdom stood on the precipice of collapse. The court, once a symbol of sagacity, now found itself entangled in the consequences of Jasper's well-meaning yet disastrous advice. The citizens, who had placed their trust in the wisdom of their rulers, now bore the heavy burden of an economic downturn that showed no signs of abating. The aging king, his brow furrowed with worry, felt the weight of the crown more acutely than ever before. Torn between loyalty to Jasper, the unwitting harbinger of chaos, and the desperate cries of his people, the king retreated to the sanctity of his private chamber. The flickering candlelight cast shadows on the ornate walls, mirroring the shadows of doubt that clouded the monarch's mind. In a moment of introspection, the king faced the harsh reality that loyalty, noble as it may be, could not supersede the welfare of the kingdom. The regal robe that once adorned Jasper now seemed like a heavy shroud, a symbol of misplaced trust that had led Eldoria to the brink of economic ruin. Summoning Jasper to a private meeting, the king confronted the donkey about the consequences of his advice. In the dimly lit chamber, the air was thick with a sense of urgency as the monarch sought to bridge the gap between loyalty and responsibility. Jasper, his long ears drooping slightly, listened attentively as the king laid bare the gravity of the situation. However, the donkey, unable to comprehend the complexities of the economic downturn, continued to offer well-intentioned but impractical solutions. His eyes, still reflecting innocence, failed to grasp the depth of the kingdom's suffering. The king, wrestling with the conflicting emotions of compassion for his humble advisor and concern for his beleaguered subjects, realized that a painful decision loomed on the horizon. The royal chamber became a crucible of conflicting emotions, a silent battleground where loyalty clashed with responsibility. The king, who had once chosen Jasper in the belief that wisdom could emerge from unexpected sources, now faced the stark reality that leadership required a delicate balance of intuition and pragmatism. With a heavy heart, the king emerged from the private meeting, the lines of worry etched deeper on his regal visage. The court awaited his decision with bated breath, and the citizens, unaware of the unfolding drama, continued to grumble about the peculiar advisor who seemed to lead them astray. In a moment of profound clarity, the king acknowledged that the kingdom needed a leader with wisdom and foresight. Loyalty, while noble, could not mend the economic wounds that festered. The decision was made, and the once trusted advisor, Jasper, would be dismissed from his role in the royal court. The news rippled through Eldoria, a kingdom on the brink of despair, as the citizens braced themselves for the consequences of this pivotal decision. The regal robe that once adorned Jasper, a symbol of misplaced trust and unintended folly, now seemed like a relic of a bygone era. The kingdom, still gripped by economic turmoil, awaited a new chapter, a chance for redemption under a leader capable of navigating the treacherous waters that lay ahead. The once stable Eldoria now stood at the crossroads of recovery, and the king, burdened by the weight of his decision, hoped that the dismissal of Jasper would pave the way for a return to prosperity and stability.
Chapter 6: The Fall of Jasper. The announcement of Jasper's dismissal resonated through the kingdom of Eldoria like a somber melody, signaling the end of an era marked by unintended folly and economic turmoil. The citizens, who had weathered the storm of misguided advice, greeted the news with a mix of relief and sadness. The court, once filled with the peculiar braying of the donkey, fell silent as the reality of Jasper's departure settled over the royal chambers. As Jasper was led away from his seat of misguided influence, his long ears drooping in a manner that mirrored the collective disappointment, the kingdom experienced a strange mixture of emotions. The courtiers, who had once exchanged skeptical glances, now faced an uneasy quiet. The regal robe, once worn with misplaced dignity, now hung in the still air like a poignant reminder of the consequences of ill-advised decisions. The citizens, their lives intertwined with the fate of the kingdom, took a collective breath as they contemplated the implications of Jasper's fall from grace. The marketplaces, once desolate and filled with whispers of discontent, now bore witness to a tentative renewal of hope. Eldoria, scarred by the economic turmoil that had threatened its very foundation, stood at the threshold of a new chapter. With Jasper no longer shaping policy, the king, freed from the burden of misguided advice, embarked on a journey of recovery. Trade agreements, which had crumbled under the weight of impractical decisions, were renegotiated with a renewed sense of purpose. Taxes, previously implemented without foresight, were adjusted to stimulate economic growth. The once silent markets began to resonate once again with the lively cadence of commerce. The citizens, who had weathered the storm of uncertainty, looked towards the horizon with a tentative optimism. The regal robe that once adorned Jasper, now a symbol of a misguided chapter in Eldoria's history, was folded away, its presence a silent acknowledgement of the kingdom's resilience in the face of adversity. Eldoria, though scarred by the economic turmoil that had unfolded under Jasper's unwitting influence, started the arduous journey towards restoration. The once doubtful courtiers, now freed from the constraints of impractical advice, engaged in deliberations that were marked by wisdom and foresight. The citizens, their grievances tempered by the promise of a brighter future, began to rebuild their lives with a renewed sense of hope. Jasper, the donkey whose long ears had unwittingly borne witness to the consequences of misguided counsel, found himself relegated to the shadows of Eldoria's history. The kingdom, though scarred, emerged from the tumult stronger and wiser. The fall of Jasper marked not just the end of a misguided chapter, but also the beginning of a redemption story, testament to Eldoria's resilience in the face of adversity and its capacity to learn from the echoes of its own mistakes.
Chapter 7: Lessons Learned. In the tranquil aftermath of the tumultuous period that had gripped Eldoria, the kingdom found itself at a crossroads of reflection and renewal. The tale of Jasper, the donkey advisor, lingered in the collective consciousness as a cautionary narrative, a story that transcended the individual missteps and resonated with profound lessons about leadership and governance. Eldoria, having weathered the storm of economic turmoil, emerged with a newfound wisdom etched into the fabric of its history. The court, once a stage for the peculiar braying of Jasper, became a forum for contemplation and collective introspection. The citizens, having borne the consequences of impractical advice, stood united in their commitment to ensure that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. The kingdom, scarred by the consequences of choosing a leader based on superficial attributes rather than competence, now turned its gaze inward. The regal robe that had once adorned Jasper, a symbol of misplaced trust and unintended folly, became a relic of the past, tucked away as a stark reminder of the journey Eldoria had endured. In hushed conversations in the marketplaces and lively debates within the royal court, Eldoria grappled with the lessons learned from the tale of Jasper. The kingdom recognized the importance of selecting leaders based on qualities of wisdom, foresight, and competence, rather than being swayed by unconventional appearances or superficial charm. The citizens, once uncertain and disillusioned, now sought leaders who could navigate the complexities of governance with sagacity. The courtiers, liberated from the constraints of impractical advice, engaged in thoughtful deliberations, their decisions guided by the collective understanding that leadership demanded more than mere symbolism. As Eldoria moved forward, trade agreements were renegotiated with a renewed commitment to mutually beneficial partnerships. Taxes were adjusted with an eye towards stimulating economic growth rather than burdening the citizens. The once silent markets now echoed with the harmonious exchanges that had once defined the kingdom's prosperity. The lessons learned from the fall of Jasper were woven into the very fabric of Eldoria's governance. The kingdom, having faced adversity and emerged stronger, embraced a culture of accountability and foresight. The citizens, once disillusioned, now participated actively in shaping the destiny of their realm, recognizing that their collective choices had a profound impact on the kingdom's prosperity. Jasper, the donkey whose long ears had inadvertently borne witness to the consequences of misguided counsel, faded into the annals of Eldoria's history. His tale, though tinged with tragedy, became a beacon of guidance for future generations. Eldoria, having learned from the mistakes of the past, stood as a testament to the resilience of a kingdom that could rise from the ashes of its own misjudgments. The regal robe that once symbolized misplaced trust now served as a reminder of the importance of choosing leaders based on merit. Eldoria, having navigated the storm and emerged on the other side, embarked on a path of renewal and reconstruction. The kingdom, with the lessons of Jasper etched into its collective memory, looked towards the future with a tempered optimism, a commitment to forging a destiny guided by wisdom and competence rather than superficial attributes.
Epilogue: A kingdom renewed. In the wake of Eldoria's tumultuous period, a newfound sense of resilience and unity permeated the kingdom. The storm, which had threatened to dismantle the very foundations of prosperity, instead became a catalyst for collective growth and renewal. The citizens, once burdened by discontent, stood shoulder to shoulder, united in their determination to rebuild what had been lost. The scars of economic turmoil, though still visible, were now badges of honor for Eldoria. The kingdom had weathered the storm and emerged not only intact, but stronger and wiser. The lessons learned from the saga of Jasper, the donkey advisor, were imprinted on the collective consciousness of the citizens, guiding their choices and shaping the path toward a brighter future. Trade agreements, once fractured by impractical decisions, were now meticulously renegotiated with a renewed commitment to fairness and mutual benefit. Taxes, previously implemented without foresight, were recalibrated to support economic growth and alleviate the burdens on the citizens. The markets, which had fallen silent in the face of chaos, now buzzed with the vitality of commerce and the promise of prosperity. The royal court, once a stage for the unintended folly of Jasper, now served as a bastion of wisdom and foresight. The courtiers, liberated from the constraints of superficial advice, engaged in thoughtful deliberations, their decisions driven by a profound understanding that true leadership went beyond symbolism and charisma. Eldoria's experience served as a poignant reminder to nations far and wide, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, true leadership and resilience could guide a nation back to prosperity. The kingdom's journey from the brink of economic collapse to a renewed state of stability became a beacon of hope for realms facing similar challenges. The citizens, having witnessed the transformative power of collective determination, embraced a newfound sense of civic responsibility. The once divided kingdom now stood united, bound by the shared goal of rebuilding and restoring Eldoria to its former glory. The scars of the past were not forgotten but became a testament to the strength and fortitude of a nation that refused to be defined by its mistakes. As Eldoria looked towards the future with tempered optimism, the lessons of Jasper's tale echoed through the kingdom. The regal robe, once a symbol of misplaced trust, was replaced by a new mantle of leadership, one that prioritized wisdom, competence, and a steadfast commitment to the well-being of the citizens. In the quiet corridors of the royal palace and the bustling marketplaces of Eldoria, the spirit of resilience and unity thrived. The kingdom, having navigated the storm with unwavering determination, stood as a living testament to the enduring power of collective wisdom and the potential for renewal even in the face of the most challenging adversities.